So I think, because I mentioned then, this is not forever. You know, this is literally, this is going to cover a piece of time. We don't really know how long, but it's
Mm.
definitely not forever. So have you changed? Is there anything changed for you? So for me, I see a need for me to be physical, but I also see a need for me, an opportunity for me to help people in a more virtual way. Do you think that this is something that you've that's something that you can embrace?
Yes, I don't feel there's been that much of a change for me, because a lot of the activities I do them from home. Um, Working, whether, like I said, whether with individuals or with teams, because of the context being an office, it's relatively easy to adjust, to be honest. So personally, I guess for me, it's just understanding, what it takes for people to be engaged in that form of training, because it is different in terms of, for example, like you said, how long you can stay focused, generally, and then while on a computer, that is even a shorter period of time. And in normal circumstances, you would probably take a break every 40-45 minutes, perhaps every 90 minutes in the worst case scenario. So a lot of my training, because I do provide it in incremental, in increments, can I say increments? In installments.
Yeah.
I provide it in parts. So normally a workshop lasts 90 minutes. And normally, if I'm asked to help a team, it's a series of workshops, because Kaizen is about incremental change over a certain period of time. It's acknowledging that it has to, you have to get a bit of training, process it, put it into practice, then another piece of training on another perhaps element, and do the same thing. Sometimes, like we said, for practical reasons, that training is delivered all at once, and I deliver accelerated programs as well. But whenever you can, the smaller steps, but they need to be very regular. I think that's where some of the results can get a bit lost, because it doesn't happen frequently enough. So, for example, when I work with individual clients, I recommend bi-weekly or bi-weekly sessions, or every 3 weeks, because I've noticed that once a month is perhaps not frequently enough for individuals. You just lose the momentum a little bit. So I think for group interventions, on a monthly basis is perfectly fine, but the smaller the group and with individuals, I would definitely recommend doing it more frequently and in smaller chunks of time.
Yeah, I would concur with that, because from my experience, when a business, because it's called continuous improvement for a good reason. It's continuous, and for it to be continuous, there has to be a infinite revisit of the improvement, and
Absolutely.
for it to be powerful, you want a rhythm. And I think that for small personal small steps, weekly, bi-weekly is fantastic. Like for when I'm helping organizations with like big team-based Kaizen events, I try and encourage a monthly rhythm, because a monthly rhythm is usually achievable. But ideally, I would say you should be running Kaizens every week. You should be doing something to improve your business every single week. But in the beginning, people are not emotionally attached to the idea of, I think that belief, people don't believe that having a continuous model that's going to cost, time, people's time, resource, They don't believe that the impact is going to pay for itself properly. But in reality, once you get the rhythm right, then it pays in dividends, you know.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so I think it's softly. So companies and businesses and people, they need to start small. Exactly what you said, little tiny small changes. And even if they're doing it every fortnight, if they're doing it bi-weekly, then those small changes, all of a sudden, they can see an improvement, and then they can up the ante. Then they can actually increase the amount of time they spend until you get into a really nice rhythm. In the very foundation of Kaizen is daily. So Kaizen is change for the better at an individual level daily. So people are just constantly looking at what they do, looking on a daily basis, how can I do this better? What can I do to make this easier? But that is so far away from most people and most organizations. But to get there, you've got to start somewhere. And if you're a business, running a Kaizen once a month can be good. If you're not like doing a full-blown Kaizen, then bi-weekly, with the view that at some point everybody's thinking about it. And while we're on this topic, I can share an experience that with one of my clients a while back, that they just did Kaizen. They did one Kaizen. They made an amazing impact on the business. They engaged the people, but they never did it again. So the months rolled on, and the Kaizen was kind of like gathered dust and got forgotten about. And that's like that's a pity. That is a real shame, because
It is a shame. I agree. I mean, continuous improvement, it's like exercise. I always say that, because you can, you will go to the gym once, and you will be excited. Your muscles will be definitely hurting, especially if you've not been doing it for a while. And yes, it's all exciting, but then if you don't go back, you're not going to get any results. So it is about frequent, but small steps. Small steps are enough, but they have to be taken frequently. And that really makes me think of the failure cycle that I talk about in the procrastination workshop, where generally speaking, people get excited about new things and about change when they know that the results are going to be great. But then when it comes to actually doing things, that enthusiasm wears off, and people start avoiding doing things in the new way, and they prefer to go back to the old way. And then there is always an excuse for that, maybe someone to blame. Whereas if you do it regularly, it just prevents you from self-sabotaging, because you've invested your time into, say, running a Kaizen event or one workshop or two, and then you feel the difference. So you think you've done the work, that the work is not finished, but it doesn't work like that. Unfortunately, you have to be doing it for the rest of your life. So I think my suggestion would be to embrace it, and just to realize that yes, it will have to be part of your business. That's why I'm still surprised that not that many businesses relatively understand, for example, the value of having someone like you intervene on a regular basis, or help support on a regular basis, or having a role within the company where there is someone responsible for continuous improvement, whether it's a coach, whether it's an L&D expert, depending what the expertise is. But it's just such an important role in a business, to have someone who will be able to, outline, identify the training needs, and organize training and coaching around that. I'm quite sure that one day it will be normal, just like having an HR specialist in small businesses, or a whole HR team, having an L&D specialist, having a finance person or director, etc. Continuous improvement is something that blends it all together, that it's like glue for the business really, and it helps build a company culture as well. Yeah, so it's interesting, you know, when this is going to happen.